Nicole and Kai and Lark and Tom that they did earlier this summer that we're reprising.
Chirping up in the sky. I'd like to be free like that, spread my wings so high. I see the river flowing, water running by. I'd like to be that river, see what I might find. I feel the wind now blowing, slowly changing time. I'd like to be the wind that swirls and shake the sky. I smell the flowers blooming, opening for spring. I'd like to be those flowers open to everything. I feel the seasons change, the leaves, the snow and sun. I'd like to be those seasons, they have been left young. I taste the living earth, the seeds that grow within. I'd like to be that earth, the home where life begins. I see the moon rising, reaching into night. I'd like to be that moon, a knowing, glowing light. I know the silence as the world begins to wake. I'd like to be that silence as the morning breaks. I like to be the light that spread my soul. I see the water running by. I like to see what I feel the wind blowing, slowly changing time. I like to be the wind that swirl and shake the sky. Shake the sky, smell the flowers blooming, opening for spring. I'd like to be those flowers, open to every, open to every, open to every, open to everything.
Thank you. I forgot also John Holm was on violin for that. And that song's called Bird Song, and it's by Heather Moss and Nikki Mehta, who perform in a band called the Waylon Jenny. The Waylon Jennies, yes. You who feel your heart is breaking, come in. You who are confused and wondering, come in. You who are angry and in pain, or not wanting to be here, come in. You who are hopeful and energized, come in. Come into this community of your heart where you have been held in love and in comfort, where you have shared your joy and your spirit, where you have asked questions because you felt they needed to be asked, where you have found friendship and companions, where you have sometimes not agreed and sometimes not felt comforted and sometimes not felt heard. Bring your broken heart and your grief. Share them. Bring your confusion and your questions. Share them. Bring your anger and your pain. Share them. Bring your hope and your energy. Share them. For here in this place, in this virtual place, we can all be together. We can gather in all the conflicting emotions tumbling around in our heads and our hearts. We bring them together here and lay them on the altar of this community. For community means that fragile, not perfect beings can come together in the name of peace and seek to find that peace once again. Good morning and welcome to Minnesota Valley UU Fellowship. My name's Laura. I'm one of the ministers here. Often we have, when we're in person, we have a greeting of one another, and I found this little exercise that I thought would be an interesting way for us to greet one another today, a little more personally. So this is from Naomi King, a colleague of mine, and she writes out this exercise. This is called "Hello, my name is." When we introduce ourselves to another person, we usually extend our hand and summarize ourselves with one word, usually our name. Hello, my name is Laura. These are the kinds of face-to-face greetings that initiate relationships, that open our hearts and act as a bridge of connection from one person to the next. But there's another kind of one-word naming that goes on in our largest society that burns bridges and locks down relationships and keeps us living our promises to one another. We know these words, and they are not words that need to be repeated here, for repeating them simply gives them more power, but they're horrible terms that we might equivalent to shark or monster or demon. I'm talking about those words that people use to describe us or we use to describe ourselves that deny our inherent worth and dignity. They're powerful words that undermine and attack us and have hurtful messages saying that we're not worthy, that we're not human, that we're not enough. Throughout my life, I've had plenty of those words and labels to describe me. So many that although I stretch my hand out to say, hello, my name is Naomi, what I feel sometimes saying, like I'm saying, is, hello, I'm worthless. Hello, I'm bad and wrong. Hello, I'm not enough. I came into our religious community because we promised to counter those messages. I am part of a religious community because we promise not to reduce each other's terrible labels, or we promise not to reduce each other's terrible labels, not to strip each other of our humanity, not to ascribe levels of worthiness to one another. Most of us need to celebrate life, to feel our inherent worth, to be restored to our dignity, to practice justice, equity, and compassion in human relationships. And most of us yearn to say, hello, I am somebody. And to be greeted, hello, somebody, welcome. We're glad you're here. Most of us hunger for affirmation and celebration in who we are and in the gifts and blessings that we bring to this world. Each of us has at least one blessing. I believe most of us have very many to give this world, but sometimes in our world, even in our community, and especially in difficult times, we might have a hard time seeing and affirming those. So we're going to do this little exercise right now. If you have a piece of paper next to you somewhere, you can grab a piece of paper and a pen or a sticky note, and that would be good. And what I would want you to do is to write your blessing, your word. You know, it would be kind of like a name tag. This could be a little note that you can save later and put on your mirror, as it were. But since we are online and we have our names right in front of us or right above us, I'm going to invite you all to rename yourselves this morning. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a challenge because I know we're on somewhat different devices. Those of you that are on computers, I know that if you go and hover above your picture, right in the upper right corner, there are 3 little dots in a blue square. And if you click on that, there'll be an option that says rename. And so what I would like you to do is think of a gift that you bring to this community or that you bring to the world. And if there are 2 of you, you can use an and symbol for both of them. I'm looking at the pearls right now on my computer. What do you bring? Do you bring humor? Do you bring generosity? Do you bring patience? Do you bring best wishes? Um, think about what you bring, and I want you to all to rename yourselves with what it is that you're bringing into the world today. And then when we scroll through and look at each other's pictures, we'll be reminded not of just one another's names, but we'll be reminded of all of the riches of this community. So this is our way to greet one another this morning. So if you'll just take a moment and rename yourself. I'll start here. Let's see. Wonderful grandma. Oh, grateful grandma. I see Candace. And I want to say, I think it's okay too, if you're feeling not so great today, to even name that, to say, that you're in need or that you're sad. That's fine too. Mr. Cosmic and expanding ... I don't know what the ... is, but that works too. Expanding ... I don't have my screen big enough to see all of it. This is great. Do you guys like this? Can I get thumbs ups or claps? Feels a little more connected. It's hard when we're doing this, isn't it? Oh. All right. Announcements. I don't have any announcements this morning. Oh, there's Jean Danko, though. I was wondering if Jean Danko might give us a little update about the auction. I was looking for an auction person this morning.
I'm here. We're getting a lot of people donating things. We've got meals, we've got desserts, we've got homemade dessert or homemade meals, purchased meals. We have scrubbies so you can clean all your dishes. We've got learning how to play chess. We do have a request for a cooking lesson. I'm Laura. And gardening help.
Did it say what kind of cooking lesson?
No, but I'll forward the info to you. I don't think it was very specific.
Okay.
Trying to think what else, but we're getting in some contributions. We can use a lot more. Our deadline is the 20th, which is a little over a week. So see what you come up with and let me know if you have questions.
I sent in my donations yesterday. I did my usual soup and bread donation that I do. I added an Italian box, which I'll make some homemade marinara and some pesto. I have a lot of basil right now. And I also have a ton of oregano. So I'm going to dry my own oregano and put together a little Italian package. And I also, because I have this fabulous herb garden this year, I have some sage and some lavender, which has kind of inspired me to make some little mini what do you call it? Smudging bundles, right? With the sage and the lavender, and do a little spiritual care box with a journal. And so think of creative things that you can do with what you have, and yeah, should be an interesting auction.
Yeah, and one of the things I am donating is a dozen Roma tomatoes.
See, right, we're all going to have gardens aplenty with cucumbers and tomatoes pretty quick here, so. It's past rhubarb season, so we won't get that in there. But
can you remind me of the date?
The 20th is the last day. Well, that's the currently posted last day to get your donations in. And when is the auction, Jean?
The actual auction is from August 2nd to 10th.
Okay.
And we're still developing the fine details for that. We're working with Jeannie to get, because she knows a lot about this too. You're either going to be emailing it in or you'll just somehow order it online and we'll get back to you, but we'll
We
let you
might
know.
we might do it on Sign Up Genius lets you say that there's only so many slots of something. So maybe we'll put it on Venue like that, because most of these things like are limited supply. Like you've got Roma tomatoes, maybe you only have 2 or 3 of those that you can give away, and so we don't get overextended. The other thing, this is a different kind of auction this year too, in that the prices for things are going to be set, right? We're not doing bidding.
Correct, it's an auction.
Right.
So
And
it'll
so
be yeah, we were saying minimum suggested donation or basically the price. And it will still be an attractive price.
yeah, I want you all to think generously in what you're donating, but I want you to think generously in what people are willing to pay for it. So whatever you think they're going to pay for it, add like 10 or 20%, because this is a fundraiser and it's an auction and it's meant to do that. And we do, as we just did that naming exercise this morning, I think we also sometimes tend to undervalue things that we're putting out in the world, right? Well, oh, I don't want to charge that much. Well, it's a fundraiser, so add $10 and then charge that. All right.
I have an announcement, Laura.
Yes.
On August 9th, Carla and I are leading a worship service just like this called The Joys of Summer. And we want you to join us by sending in photos of yourself enjoying summer or family and friends from summers past, especially summers past. And I'm going to read you Carla's email address to send them to. It's also in the Friday email. So it's CVR_UU@hotmail.com. CVR_UU@hotmail.com. So we're going to make a slideshow of happy photos of summer for August 9th. So we'd like your photos by July 31st.
That sounds great. I'll get you some. I brought matches up here. There they are. Friends, I don't know who among you has chalices. I hope some of you have chalices now that you're lighting at home. I'm going to light the chalice that I have here. Today I'm using my thrift store find chalice. And Richard, can you put the words for the chalice lighting in the chat, or maybe they're already there? I don't have my chat open. They are there. We arrive, please join me. We arrive here together, seeking connection to others, seeking connection to ourselves, seeking connection to the spirit of life within, among, and beyond us, seeking connection to that which is beyond our own time and space. As we light our chalices, may we find the light of joy and hope. May we find the warmth of compassion and love. May we find our own spark nurtured, that we may bring light and warmth to a community or to a world in need. Our opening hymn this morning has also been recorded before we went on our summer hiatus from some members of our choir, and that is Spirit of Life. And Richard, will you cue that up for us?
Sing in my heart all the
Yes, I would like to unmute. Let's try this again. Each week, we set aside a few minutes to lift up the joys and sorrows and gratitudes and concerns that we're all carrying. I invite you to share, if you'd like, whatever you're carrying this week, that we can hold it in this space. You can do that in the chat, or there are so few of us, you can take turns and unmute your mic if you'd like. I can give a quick update on a couple of things in my world or related to my world. Andrea Johnson, who's got COVID, is doing fine. She's kind of over the worst. Um, a lot of fatigue and a little bit of congestion, and has been isolating herself in her room for the last, I don't know how many days. I think later today, ends her quarantine from her family. So she's grateful for the well wishes and feeling better. And my nephew, who is in the hospital, as some of you know, he's still in a barbiturate-induced coma, and he is seeing some progress, although now he has pneumonia, which is not unusual for somebody who's on a vent. But he is getting an MRI on his head today, which we've been waiting for since his accident a week and a half ago. He's stable enough for that now, so we're grateful for that. And I'm grateful for all of the support that I've gotten here and everywhere during this difficult time for my family. So, and who else has things to share today?
I just wanted to update that my son is doing okay. He's back to work and back at the fire station, but the FBI is investigating. They kind of took a few days off for the 4th, but now they're investigating, and there's no new news. But I really appreciate all the emails and the messages of concern. I appreciated that a lot. Last week, I really needed it, and it helped me just feel better about everything. Thank you.
The chat makes it really interesting today. Ironic Mind's relationship with her daughter is greatly improved, and Exuberance is having a birthday tomorrow. Creativity is happy for the rain. Are we getting more rain? Or happy for the rain that drove out the heat? Maybe that's the rain you're happy for. I was happy for that rain. Anybody else? Will you please join in our sun responses? We hold and lift up the things that have been shared, and also that we hold and lift up the things that remain in our hearts. Oh, no music today. Oh God, you're gonna make me sing it in front of everybody on my mic. All right, here we go, folks. Bear with me. You're gonna sing with me, right? You don't have to unmute your mics, but please join me in singing. And we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is the answer. Thank you. For our meditation space today, I thought we'd do a little embodied thanks exuberance. That wasn't too bad. I didn't crack once. I thought we'd do a little body prayer. So Andrea did one of these maybe last month in one of the videos, and it's an interesting idea. And I think because we spend so much time on these Zoom sessions just sitting here and staring, I thought, again, I'm trying to get some interaction going today. Plus, we're talking about spirituality, which is kind of an engaged thing. So I thought we'd do a body prayer. So a body prayer is simply just going through some motions to kind of guide you in a prayer, or if you prefer some other wording for that, in intentional thought, in focused thought, in meditating on the things that are important to you, on what you're wanting to receive in and what you're wanting to give out to the world, right? And we can call that many things: thoughts, prayers, meditations, good vibes, good juju, all that stuff. So what I thought, I kind of made this one up yesterday. All right, so I need you all to participate with this. So this is the way that it's going to work. Make sure you got some room in front of you. So first, we'll put our hands over our hearts. I can see you all. Hands over your hearts. There you go. See, I can see you all. It's just like the same at church. I can see you all. Put your hands over your hearts. And while you're doing that, I want you to think of your love of yourself, right? Kind of like, what do you need to get by this day, this week, during this pandemic, whatever comes to your mind. So you're going to think of that then, and we'll just spend a little moment there. Just think about what you need. And maybe just take a couple of deep breaths to honor what it is that you need. And maybe even make a mental note about what it is that you might need to do to get those needs met. So just take one more deep breath on that. Okay, now let's move our hands up here kind of by our face. This is going to represent our hearing and seeing others' needs, right? So just kind of think about that for a minute, to open yourself to hearing and seeing the needs of others, the needs of those in your family or your friends or in this community, the needs of those in our broader community. I know there's a lot going on in Bloomington with racial justice stuff right now. There's a lot going on in our state. There's a lot going on with the pandemic and the world. So just kind of have your hands here to hear and see those needs of the world. And let's just take a deep breath to kind of remind ourselves to be open to hearing and seeing those things. All right. Now let's put our hands in a heart shape. And we'll kind of put that out. And that is to symbolize that we're offering our love out to the world, to our friends, to our family, to people in this community. You can look and see everybody offering their hearts to you. And take a deep breath with that. And then finally, I invite you to just open your hands to receive the love that's been given to you from others. We started with our own needs, kind of naming them. Open your hands and realize that there are people here for you. There's a community here for you. You have friends and family to reach out to. You have whatever it is that grounds your spirit to hold on to. And we'll just hold all that. And then we'll go back to our hearts one more time. Take it all in. One breath. There we go. So that's a simple kind of body prayer, you know, yourself, the world, love, bringing it all back in. These kinds of tools are often used to help people kind of guide their thoughts and centering their thoughts. So I invite you to use those if you find them helpful. We're going to go into an interlude song, which is actually a poem, kind of I think it was like opening words that a colleague wrote, and then a friend of hers put it to music. And so I'm going to share that. And then I also want to remind you about our offering that we're, of course, you're financially. You can go to the website anytime. You can go right now. The link's over in the chat while you're listening to this song or during the sermon or anytime during the service. You can go tomorrow. You can go at 2 in the morning. You can go from your phone or your computer. You can also still send checks. If you do send checks, make sure that you write in the memo what you're sending them for. But we're grateful for all of your support.
Give up the fight for some other moment, some other life than here and now.
I'm just gonna breathe.
Give up the longing for some other world, the wishing for other choices to make,
Life I change.
other songs to sing, other
I'm just
bodies,
gonna breathe.
other ages, other countries, other stakes.
Till I touch the sorrow neath the rage. I'm just gonna breathe.
Purge the past. Forgive the future.
Till there's
For each
nothing
comes
lurking
too
around my
soon.
smile.
Surrender only to this
I'm
life,
just gonna breathe.
this one, this moment here and now. Surrender only to this day, this hour, this breath. Not because it does not constantly break your heart, but because it too beckons with beauty, startles with delight.
In the way that you are living.
If only we can keep waking up to this gift. This is the gift we have been given.
Changing no longer resisting.
These body clothes,
Gonna breathe.
this heartbreak, it's ours. This pulse, it's ours. This breath,
Till there's
This
nothing that changes
light.
this life.
these
I'm
friends,
just gonna breathe.
this hope. All we can do is remember ourselves here.
I'm just gonna breathe.
All a part of it all,
Tip
still growing
natural just
together.
I'm just gonna breathe. Until I'm glad to breathe here for a while. We'll give up the fight for some other love. There's hope in the way that you are living. We'll give up the fight for some other love. It's changing, no longer resisting. Come on and breathe, breathe, breathe. Come on and breathe, breathe, breathe. It's gonna breathe, breathe, breathe. Come on and breathe, breathe, breathe. Give up the fight, breathe, breathe. For some other life, breathe, breathe. Give up the fight, breathe, breathe. For some other life, breathe, breathe.
So we continue our summer series today exploring our 7 UU principles, and this week we're on the 3rd principle, which calls us to affirm and promote acceptance of one another and encourage spiritual growth within our congregation. So there are 2 parts to this principle, and there's a bit of tension between them. The first part asks us to accept one another, and it harkens a bit back to the first principle, wherein we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. But now we're being asked to accept one another in our congregations. By affirming the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we honor their value and their right to be treated as a person of value. The 3rd principle, though, pulls us deeper by asking us not just to affirm one another, but to accept one another. These things sound similar, but they're different. There's several definitions of the word accept, and it certainly can mean to affirm something given its value and acknowledge that, but it means more than that too. To accept is to affirm something, yes, but also to accept is to understand something. To accept is to believe in something. To accept is to invite and welcome and receive. So when we're asked to accept one another, that's what we're being asked. Yes, to affirm one another, but also to do our best to understand one another and to invite and to welcome and receive one another. We're being asked to make space for the fact that we all hold varying beliefs and experiences and understandings of the world around us, and that they may not be our beliefs or our experiences or our understanding, and yet we accept that they are valid for somebody else. And because accepting also means to receive and invite, we not only make space for this diversity, but we're asked to welcome it, right? Whoever you are, whatever you believe is true, if our principles and our vision resonate with you, then we invite you to join us. We sing the words of the Sufi poet Rumi. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. And so we can extend that and say, come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, seeker, mystic, Buddhist, or agnostic. You're welcome here. Come, come, whoever you are, worshiper, theist, Christian, Jew, Muslim, Hindu, or pagan. You are welcome here. Come, come, lover of leaving, atheist, humanist, secular, spiritual, but not religious, religious naturalist, or maybe you're just testing the waters. Welcome. Come in and stay as long as you need. Come, yet again, come. And I'll add the words from the poem that we omit. There's another line to the poem that's not in our song. Though you have broken your vows 1,000 times, come yet again. So you are not only welcome in all of your beliefs, in your grounding, in your wholeness, you are welcome here and accepted in your brokenness, in your mistakes. You're welcome here to this place of respite and renewal for community and for support. You're welcome here to join us as we try to make sense of it all, over and over again and again and again. We accept one another and we encourage spiritual growth within our congregations. Now, if you are a church or a synagogue or a temple or a mosque with a shared set of beliefs, spiritual growth is often a shared path of practices and study. But when you are a community that has many different paths, encouragement of spiritual growth can be complicated. And that's where the tension between this accept one another and encourage spiritual growth in our congregation, that's where that lies. How do we nurture and encourage spiritual growth within our congregation when we all hold different beliefs? First of all, we need to make sure that we don't forget the first part of the principle, which is why that's the first part. Accept one another. So I want to give you a little picture of the varying spiritual needs and expressions of our congregation. These are just a few things that have happened in the last few weeks, meaning they are emails that I have gotten or calls that I have gotten from congregants around various spiritual needs. I have received prayer requests from members. I have also been on the receiving end of prayers from several members regarding my nephew's recent accident. And from others I've received some of those good vibes, the good juju, the good thoughts. Some people frame it that way. So I've gotten both of those. I have heard from folks who want to start a group exploring embodied anti-racism work to deepen their spiritual connections with their social justice work. Jeannie, our new and fabulous office and communications manager, she writes as part of her spiritual practice, and she wants to explore and encourage more of that in the fellowship. She's got a postcard writing campaign to help connect people right now. And she's also exploring the thoughts and ideas, and by the way, those of you that are interested in this should email her, about starting a seasonal journal or magazine for the fellowship that would include writings and poetry from members, and maybe some artwork as well. So that's meeting another spiritual need for those that are creative and those of us that seek creativity. I've received calls and inquiries from families who are looking for ways to deepen their spiritual roots at home as COVID-19 keeps us from the fellowship. And I'm always reminded and recommended good speakers and films and book studies that we can use at the fellowship to deepen our relationships to all that is within us, among us, and beyond us, which is another way that people deepen their, or engage in spiritual growth. Those are all things that have just happened in the last 2 weeks. It goes without saying that we all need different and various things, and that we all want opportunities to deepen our spirituality, that is our connection to whatever it is beyond us, simply by having space to talk about it and to explore it. One thing I do want to plug here are the Soul Matters small groups that will start up again in the fall. These are excellent places for you to ground yourself and explore spiritual matters, however they might be meaningful to you. There's so many different questions and little sparks within those packets that pretty much there's something to meet everybody wherever they are on the spiritual expression spectrum. Our job isn't easy, making space for all these varied needs. And I say our job because it takes all of us, not only to accept and welcome one another, but also it takes all of us to create that meaningful space where we can nurture our spirits. And of course, it's not supposed to be an easy thing. Spiritual growth, like any other kind of growth, involves moving into unknown territory. It involves vulnerability and discomfort. Growth challenges what we have known to make room for what we are becoming. This work is of the utmost importance because we can't do good social justice work unless we're grounded in our beliefs, whatever that is for each of us. And we cannot teach our children and invite one another into expansive learning around our principles and values and mission unless we are grounded in our own beliefs. We can't engage the work of making the world a better place unless we are grounded in whatever we hold dear. We can't be there for one another unless we're grounded in our own sense of knowing that people want us to be well. We are called upon to meet our congregation's mission, that is, that we are an inclusive community seeking the light of truth and carrying the fire of commitment to build a better world through love and service. And we live this out through our vision, which is to nurture one another, to be courageous in living and sharing our UU principles and values, and to keep spiritual and intellectual growth, justice, and joy as cornerstones of our community. Whoever you are, however and whenever you came here, we're glad you're here. Whatever wounds you brought, we welcome them here. Whatever curiosity you brought, we welcome you here to explore. Whatever spiritual roots and whatever spiritual hunger you brought, we welcome them here, and we invite you to share them within the bonds of community that we might all find nourishment here. May it be so, and amen. So I think we have a few minutes. What I was hoping to do before we go into our final hymn and closing words, this is an interesting topic, the spiritual growth, and I'm always trying to figure out how to meet everybody's needs. And so I'm just wondering if anybody has anything that they wish that was here, or if anybody wants to speak out, on behalf of something that they do find meaningful, because we are a community. Does anybody? It's summer. It's a summer service. So does anybody have any thoughts on this? Does anybody have anything that they think would be great that they're wishing we did or had? And if you don't have anything now, you can email me later. But it's a hard thing to meet the varied needs of this community, and especially hard right now as we try to do it all over the computer.
Could I just mention one thing?
Yeah.
A large part of spirituality to me is listening. And I've been involved in a number of programs on learning deeper listening. And it's a continuous process that goes on and on and on. So to the extent we can incorporate deepening our listening, I think that would allow hearing needs of ourselves and others around, listening behind the words, listening behind the actions. It's a spiritual practice which I'd like to see more of.
Yeah, I think that's one that we always need to be working on. I know some of the things that we do incorporate that a little bit. Beloved Conversation certainly does. I think the Soul Matters groups do too, because there's that practice of listening and not responding.
Yeah, Soul Matters is great for that.
Yeah. And that practice of listening and not responding is really hard. And aside from it being a spiritual growth component, it's also a good anti-racism work thing to engage as well. Exuberance really loves the idea of a creative journal. I've been trying to get this off the ground for a while, and I was so excited when we hired Jeannie because she's got a little bit of experience in this kind of thing, and she's excited about it. So I'm really hoping that that'll happen. And I think if there are any of you, because I can't do everything, I'm going to just name that right now. I can't do everything. I encourage you, if you're interested in that, or those of you who are members who've been around for a while, maybe you've seen this happen here before, because I know it has. It just has been a while since it has happened. Contact her, let her know what it looked like before. If you're a writer, if you're a photographer, if you're an essayist, looking at you, Ed Prell. I know there are writers amongst you. I know there are poets amongst you. And it would be fabulous if we could have something. I know there are painters amongst you as well. There could be art in there and photography. It would be fantastic. So contact Jeannie about that.
It's Barb here. Like many of you, I'm doing a lot of reading during the pandemic. And I'm reading a nonfiction book right now. that so far I think would be a really good one for a discussion group, and that would motivate action on our parts. It's called Rebooting Capitalism. It's by Anthony Biglin. He is a prevention psychologist and writer from Oregon. Some of you may have read his book called The Nurture Effect. And he dreams, as I think we all do, of a much more nurturing society and economy, and talks about ways that we can work to realize that.
Thank you.
And
I had thought of maybe if we had a book group that was just about kind of books that are, meant to kind of engage spiritual growth and nurturing that within ourselves, that might be a good book group to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, they're all good ideas, and I think we keep having ideas, and certainly, this idea of a journal, that's not a new idea. I'm sure it's been done here before. It's been done everywhere before, but it's maybe time for it to come back around again. So they don't even have to be new ideas. They can be, book clubs are old ideas. Journal is old ideas. Just what are some of the things that we need that we can engage, that people are interested in, and helping Andrea and I figure out what those things are that you're actually going to engage in is helpful, because otherwise we throw out a bunch of stuff that ends up half of it not being stuff that you're interested in, which means then we're spending time putting together things that then nobody ends up engaging in, and that we could be spending our time rather planning things that you are going to be engaged in, which would be a much more valuable use of our time too. So I appreciate. Yeah.
I just want to say, I want to give a plug to this online format, because as a working person, it gives me a lot more flexibility to pop into things when I wasn't able to do that before, or at the end of a day of work when it was just kind of too much to go out again and participate in activity. That just kind of turning this on and sitting in my chair has been really, I love this option. I mean, I'm assuming it's going to go away at some point, but
well,
it's really useful.
It won't completely go away. I mean, the way the conversations are going around this is that whenever it is that we're able to be back in person, it's never going to be the same, because now you've all had a taste of this, and so we'll be hybrid. I had been pushing Zoom when I first got here because I think it's a great format for committee meetings, because it allows parents and people who don't like to drive after dark and bad weather in the winter and all these other things to, you bypass all of that for committee and board meetings. But I couldn't get any traction with it. Nobody was really interested in it until all of a sudden we had to do it. Now everybody is on Zoom. And I think now that they've had a taste of it, they realize how much easier it is to fit things in your life. So I think going back, we will have, so like, for instance, soul matter groups, we may have some that meet in person, and we might have some that would meet online. Committees, it would be up to committees to decide when and how they're meeting based on their committee members. I mean, there are committees that meet right now during the day because it's all retirees. But maybe we would attract, some different folks if it was meeting at night and people didn't have to leave their kids at home, those kinds of things. Or they were tired from working, like you're saying, you're tired at the end of the day, you don't want to drive in for another thing. So it's a really good thing for us to keep exploring for different ways for people to be engaged in the thing. I realize I keep looking down. It's because I have you all down low on my computer and I need to look at the green dot. Yeah, making lemonade out of lemons is exactly what we're doing. So I'm really glad that for this online time. All right, we're getting close to the end, so I want to make sure I finish up on time. Again, after the service, we'll have time for small groups so people can peek in there and say hi to each other. I want to invite you all for the words for extinguishing the chalice. Richard printed them on the chat. If you can't see them, just scroll up a little bit. They're there. Will you please join me in those words? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. By the way, if you didn't catch my video last week, I think I showed some chalice options to make it home. You know what, Richard? Let's skip that closing hymn. I'm just going to go into closing words, and then we can go into the postlude. Closing words today are from Samuel Trumbore. Go forth in simplicity. Find and walk the path that leads to compassion and wisdom, that leads to, sorry, you took my full screen, Richard. That leads, I'm going to start over. Go forth in simplicity. Find and walk the path that leads to compassion and wisdom, that leads to happiness, peace, and ease. Welcome the stranger and open your heart to a world in need of healing. Be courageous before the forces of hate. Hold and embody a vision of the common good that serves the needs of all people. And hold on, Richard, because I have an introduction for that last song. Our postlude today is Orpheus, which is a song by Sarah Bareilles, and that's performed today by Nicole and Isabella Collins and Tom Ellinger, again recorded earlier. And of this song, I just wanted to note that the composer remarks that this song is about learning to cope with the confusion created by this sort of new chapter in our world where politically and socially and culturally it can feel like the world is on fire a lot of the time. And so we learn to cope with chaos when everything feels so destabilized and in flux. This is Orpheus.
Come by the fire, lay down your head. My love, I see you're growing tired, so set the bad day by the bed and rest a while. Your eyes can close. You don't have to do a thing but listen to me sing. I know you miss the world, the one you knew, the one where everything made sense. Because you didn't know the truth, that's how it works. Till the bottom drops out and you learn. We're all just hunters seeking solid ground. Don't stop trying to find me here amidst the chaos. Though I know it's blinding, there's a way out. Say out loud, we will not give up on love now. No fear, don't you turn like Orpheus, just stay here. Hold me in the dark, and when the day appears, we'll say we did not give up on love today. I'll show you good choose her like Orpheus. Just stay here, hold me in the dark, and when the day